Hey, good people, welcome to Determined Women of Destiny, powered by Rudy Radio. This is the show that gives you the business, the good, the bad, and the beautiful of female entrepreneurship. I am your host, Yvonne, the Motivator Man, and today I have with me a young lady that is the CEO, executive producer of her own production company. She has produced a film that is in the Cannes Film Festival, and I tell you, she came on here ready. The music was playing and she was ready to go. So I introduce to you Tanya Grady. Welcome to Determined Women of Destiny.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate being on your platform. It is a true honor. Anytime you get to be invited somewhere where someone wants to hear you speak or hear your story, I think it's a blessing. So thank you.
You're more than welcome. I'm so excited because you have your film that's going to be shown at the Cannes Film Festival. For people who don't know, Cannes is French. Okay. It's going to be shown in France. Okay. Yeah. And they have this segment for Black films, you know, and that's what you're a part of. Am I correct?
That is correct. It's called Pavilion Afrique.
Oh.
That's the pavilion. Yes.
Oh,
that's where all the African diaspora films are, you know. So it's kind of cool. I would love to be in Cannes any way that they would take me, but I love the fact that I am under that pavilion. So
now tell us about your film, For the Love of Diggs.
Okay, wow. For the Love of Diggs, I would like to say it is at its core, it's a love story. For me, it's not, you know, for other people, they don't see a love story. It's about basketball. It's about a man, his name is Thomas Diggs Jr., who basically laid himself on the line for all the kids in the projects. You know, I grew up in Brevoort Projects, which is a low-income projects, and it was pretty much a projects surrounded by a bunch of other projects. So you have all of these kids, and we're talking, you know, basically around the crack era, all of these young kids outside running around, nothing to do. So this man took it upon himself to put together curriculums and activities and recreation to keep us busy, because his strategy was if he could keep us busy, he could keep us off the streets, off drugs, and out of jail. And he was very successful because there are a lot of kids who didn't have fathers in the home, didn't have, you know, moms there. Moms were working, broken homes, a lot of stuff going on. And nobody was really tending to the kids as much as they should have been. You know, you do have some, you know, families that had it going on, but for the most part, you know, a lot of kids were just running wild. So his basketball tournaments, he has an infamous basketball tournament. Everybody knows the Brevoort Midget League. And so that midget league, he used to run in the summers, which, you know, the kids really needed it in the summertime because you're outside all day doing nothing. And he had this league that all of the kids would be a part of. And then you had the girls that did the cheerleading. And, you know, it was someplace to be. We had a Coliseum, which in the film you see this big Coliseum. So all of the attraction was in the Coliseum, and he could keep his eyes on us. And at the time, we really didn't know that, you know, he was doing all of this. We just knew he was always around. He was always present. So, you know, the documentary is really like returning the love to sender. He gave us all of that love for over 35 years. So the documentary is me bringing together all of the kids who are now grown, who are returning that love to him so we can give him his flowers while he's still alive. He's 70 years old now. He's still in great shape. So for him to be able to see the film and see, you know, he know all of us since we were kids. To see us, you know, give that love back, it's like no other.
That's amazing. And, you know, you ask yourself, why is it that no one decided to do this? But it took Tanya Grady to do this.
Yeah.
It took you. So how did you get involved in filmmaking?
Oh, well, that's a loaded question, because basically my first love is film. My first love is music. Music is my first love. And when I moved to Atlanta, I got introduced to television. So I was asked to be a host on a television show, and I'm like, oh, me? Oh, okay, sure. I'll be in it. Why not? So I'm gonna play ball. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I got bitten by the bug. I was always in the entertainment industry via music, through a fashion. And, so now always being around film and television, but always working in a backdrop because I did publicity. So now I'm in Atlanta, I'm in front of the screen hosting a television show, not knowing what I'm doing. And then decided, you know what, this is cool, but I want to learn how to do it for real. And I want my own show. So I learned how to do it for real, got my own show, which is called The Red Room Tonight. For all of the people out there, if you want to check out my show, because it's running now, and you can go to my website, www.redroomtonight.com. Tonight is TONIGHT. And you can see all the old shows, all the celebrities and everything. So that started that way. And I didn't get into film until I moved back to New York. So basically I moved back in 2006. So in 2007, I started my first documentary, which was called Man Up, The Exploration of a Fatherless Nation. And that was my entree into film in the sense of being a producer and a director, because I've always been in film. I would be in casting and I would do, but everything was behind the scenes. So, not having your own, like being a director, that's your baby. Mm-hmm. So that was my entrance into film.
So when you came back to New York, you had brought with you all of your expertise that you had learned, and you came back home. And did you say to yourself, I want to do something about home?
No, I actually did not want to come home. I really didn't. I'm just honest.
I'm sorry. I wasn't ready for that.
I know. I did not want to come home. When I moved from New York, I grew up in Brooklyn. So when I moved from New York to Atlanta, I had no idea what to expect, but Atlanta embraced me in such a way. Because in New York, I was a mover and a shaker, but it was just so much competition. It was competitive. I couldn't get ahead. No matter which way I turned, no matter how fast I ran, I was always behind. So I go to Atlanta and everything was snap. I go to Atlanta, I get a TV show. I start my own TV show. I'm interviewing celebrities. I get a job at CNN producing. I mean, it just was like, it just loved me. I went to this city and it wrapped its arms around me and it loved me. I mean, it was like, I was a baller in Atlanta. I was a shot caller. Because, okay, this is what's so funny. When I got my job at CNN, I'm so glad that I got my job at CNN, because I didn't get my job the way other people got their job. I got my job because of my television show. So what's great is that I'm walking through CNN and, people like, oh, I saw you last night. Great interview. And I'm like, oh, they watching the show? Like, I thought I was hiding most of it. So people were congratulating me, and I was on the A-list, getting invited to everything. And then I was covering just about all of the stuff that came through Atlanta, which, Atlanta is a hub. So it's like a main hub, and everything comes to Atlanta. So I'm talking A-list celebrities, everyone from P. Diddy to Faith Evans to Steve Harvey, Bernie Mac, Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams, you could go on and on. DMX. I've interviewed just about everybody. Chris Rock. I could go on, and I just found, what's is funny.
Girl, I want to be you. you speaking my dream right now.
Look, I want to go back and be me too, because that was me 20 years ago. I want to go back and be me too. So the funny thing is, I just found some footage, an old box of tapes, and I found an interview that I did with Jam Master Jay. Ooh. And he's no longer with us. So this is kind of like a never before seen interview. And it's a really, it's off camera interview, but they were being inducted into the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. And anyway, I just found that and I was like, oh, I can't wait to, put this out there because nobody has this. Wow. So I got some juicy stuff. I got some stuff going on, Karen. I got some stuff going on.
The archives are the best, aren't they?
Yes, look,
you never know. You never know. Well, when we come back from break, we're going to talk about some of your struggles that you went through making this film. And, let's tell us all about the excitement of the Cannes Film Festival. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Determined Women of Destiny. If you just tuned in, you know what I'm going to tell you, where you been. You know you're supposed to come in the beginning because that's where all the good stuff is, but I love you for being here now. I'm your host, Yvonne, the Motivated Man, and I've been speaking to Miss Tanya Grady. She is the CEO and executive producer of Grady Girl Productions. She produced a movie called For the Love of Diggs. She's going to tell us a little bit more about that movie, which is at the Cannes Film Festival. And I'm going to say it again. That's French, y'all, if y'all didn't know. And it's in France. Right, it's in France, y'all. Yes. Just tell us a little bit about maybe, the ups and downs and the struggles of making a film that sounds like it's so close to your heart. You are part of this. It's not like making a film about something that didn't touch you or you didn't know anything about. The gentleman you made a film about, you knew him. You interacted with him.
He was actually my next door neighbor.
Oh, so what were the struggles in trying to get this from your heart, your mind onto the screen?
Well, there were so many. First and foremost, I had originally my intent was to step up to the plate and honor this man for all that he had done, and he had never been recognized for all he had done for the community. So that was my purest intention. And I wanted to do a piece to honor him. So it was really going to be probably like a small piece. It was never intended to be a documentary. It was just going to be a small piece to honor him. It probably would have been 20 minutes or something, like a nice little small piece. And I call that small because I like long form. It's not really small, but it was going to be a little piece. And when God told me to get up, because I had started it years prior, and I interviewed a couple of people, and I had just started it, and then I started getting calls to work on different projects. I went to Chicago. I worked on Empire. I worked on Work in Progress for Showtime. I worked on some independent films. So I was always moving, so I never had a chance to kind of finish it. So fast forward to 2020, we're in this pandemic, I'm sitting around fat on the couch, just, being a bum. And, I was doing little things, but in my scheme of things, I do a lot. So I was doing a couple of things which felt like nothing, and I was a little depressed. And, the end of October, God spoke to me and he told me to get up and finish the project for Diggs. And I heard it so clearly because I'm aligned with God. And the only way you can hear him is if you're in line with him. So I heard it so clearly that I jumped up. I literally jumped up, started working, and I had my head down, and my whole focus was, because too many people were dying from where we come from, the projects. Every day it was another call. This person died, that person, it was just crazy. So I just took that and the message, like, let me get this man his flowers while he's still alive. So I put my head down and I started working and started doing it. And as I was, putting it out there that I'm doing this piece for Diggs and lining up interviews, it just got bigger and bigger because he's a hero in the community. He's a hero. He's like a legend in Brooklyn. So everybody knows this man because he used to run the tournaments, and all of these guys, they really respect him and everything. So the more it got out there, the more people wanted to be in a documentary. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is getting too big. It's just me. I mean, it's just me. And it's 2020, it's COVID. So I started out with somebody shooting, and I had a DP who was shooting for me. And that didn't last long because my money didn't last long. So I was like, you know what? I got to shoot this myself. So here I am producing this documentary. I'm directing a documentary. I'm shooting it, directing it. I ended up editing it. I pretty much did all of the interviews. I did all of the digital assets, all of the design. Like, I did it all. The only help that I had was my daughter, bless her heart. She was there, and she helped her mama, because you can imagine I did a lot of interviews that were in the field, but it's COVID. So it was a lot of people who didn't want you to come to their house. They didn't want to come out. So it was a lot of Zoom interviews. Now, this is one of those obstacles, because you would think it would be easier to do a Zoom interview. When I tell you, I should get a freaking award for directing somebody how to set up a camera. People, is the camera eating their face? And I'm like, no, you got it. It would take 20 minutes to 30 minutes. And I would get so frustrated because I didn't have that time to waste. And, I didn't really want to do a lot of the interviews via Zoom, but I was kind of scared to go to so many people's houses, and I didn't really want them coming to mine. So it was just like, okay, let me do this. I was fine with doing outdoor interviews, but not that many people really wanted to do outdoor interviews. So that was an obstacle, because I was like, man, I don't want this to look crazy. I thought, all of the Zoom interviews, and they did look crazy. Some of them I had to do over. So it was a struggle with the money. It was a struggle with trying to keep up with the demand, because so many people wanted to be involved in the project. And I kept telling them, it's just me, y'all. Like, it's just me. Like, y'all got to calm down. I can't get everybody in it. And anyway, long story short, it ballooned and ballooned, and it just got so big that I was like, this is no longer a small project. This is a documentary. And my documentary, look, after cutting it down, is 90 minutes long. So that gives you an idea of the work. Anybody in film, 90 minutes of anything is a long time.
Absolutely, because I feel you. I do everything myself on my show, except for it goes to the programming department and they put it up on the platforms. But the video, the editing, the sound, all of that. And I couldn't do 90 minutes. I would die. It would knock me out. So I commend you for that. So you said you were in Atlanta. They embraced you. You didn't want to come back to New York, but you did.
God made me come back. I didn't want to come back. God told me to come back years prior. And I tell people this, and I'm going to tell this because I believe in speaking some knowledge into people, dropping words of wisdom. God told me to take my black ass, I don't know if you can curse, but he told me to take my black ass home. And me, no, I'm big in Atlanta. I'm just doing this interview. He kept telling me go home, and I kept ignoring it. And, he would throw a little pebble on your head. You're like, okay, who's throwing stuff on me? Then it gets bigger, like, what's going on? Then to the point where you stop listening so much, he just throw a whole boulder at you. And it just kind of like knocks you off your feet. And that's what happened. He took everything from up under me, like somebody sweeping the rug from under you, taking the rug. Yeah, that's what happened. And my whole life got turned upside down. So that pretty little life that I was talking about, ooh, girl, it got turned so twisted and turned upside down that I had no choice but to take my black ass home.
It sounded like you had a Jonah and the whale experience. Go to Nineveh.
It felt like that.
Go to Nineveh. No, go to Nineveh. Oh, I'm in a whale right now.
Yeah. And that's why if I could reach anybody out there, if God is speaking to you, do not ignore him. Because the sound will get louder and louder. Because even if you're not clear on what he's telling you, it'll get louder and louder. But I was very clear. He was telling me to go home. And I did not want to go. And this is how good God is. Because I had no idea what was waiting on me at home. All I remember is at home was not working for me. It's working for me in Atlanta. It's not working for me in New York. But when I went home, I mean, as soon as I went home, everything opened up for me. I got a job at Black Enterprise right away. I started my documentary because I started my first documentary, Man Up, because my daughter was young at the time. She's like maybe 4 when we got home, 3 or 4 years old, and she would ask me about her dad all the time. And I didn't have any answers, and it used to bother me so much. And I was like, you know what, this is bothering me too much. Let me try to do some research. Let me figure out what makes a man walk away from his family and not stay in touch with his children, you know? So that's why I called it Man Up, the exploration of a fatherless nation, because I was in search of answers. So now, had I not listened to God, I would not be a filmmaker today.
I'm going to give you an invitation right now to come back, and so we can do something on that Man Up, because that subject is real. That you will walk away.
Yes, honey.
Just walk. Listen, you could leave me, but the baby.
Yeah. But that's really what it is. It's the baby. And when I say family, I'm really some men really walk away from their entire families, but some people don't even have families. He's walking away from the kid. But when I tell you, let me just tell you, this is what I would have missed out on if I had not. Well, I didn't do anything. He basically took everything from me, and I had to come home. Right. But I would have been missing out on that, because that documentary was an underground phenomenon. It grew grassroots. Everybody loved this documentary. Before I even started shooting it, I was getting calls from actors, well-known actors who wanted to be in it. And that's when I realized, like, okay, this thing is bigger than me, because I was really doing it for me and my daughter. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to focus on us, but that was the whole reason for starting the documentary, to find answers. And that grew very fast. It went so fast. So many people wanted to be involved in it. And I had just left Atlanta not too long ago, so I had more help. So I enlisted some producer friends in Atlanta. So I had them doing interviews in Atlanta. I had some people doing some stuff in different places. So I had way more help the first time. And the documentary grew so much that I started doing, after like my second screening, I started to do my own personal tour. It started out to be a 5-city tour that turned into a 10-city tour that we did maybe 2 or 3 times. Because I would go to cities. First, we would start out trying to figure out, okay, do I got enough money, gas money, toll money to get down here after I rent, the theater and do all this stuff and promote it. And it ended up being like after the second city that they would call me and say, hey, I heard about this film. We love this film, Man Up. We want to invite you to the city. And I'm like, okay, this is great. They're like, oh, we'll pay for you to come down. And I'm like, oh, okay. It went from paying me to come down to we're going to pay you to screen your film. So that's 2 checks. To we going to give you the keys to the city.
Wow.
Okay. Now, look at God. I mean, it was like I was a superhero. Like when I was a celebrity, after the screening, people loved it so much. I had done something, my mentor, Terry Williams, that's my girl. Hey, Terry. She called me one day. I don't know if you know who she is, but
she's from Brooklyn, right?
Yeah,
and she talks about mental illness within the Black community. I have had the privilege to hear her speak. Yes. I love her.
Yes, you and millions of people. She is my mentor and a close friend. And she called me up. She called me up and she just was like, do you understand what you're doing? Because that's how she talks to me. Do you understand what you're doing? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of think I know what I'm doing. And she's just like, this is so powerful. I don't want you to underestimate how powerful this is. You really need to, because it was kind of like, I knew, but I didn't know. And the reason it was growing so fast is because there's a whole fatherhood community that's like a cult. So they embraced this film, and that's how it was getting through, the grassroots. People were taking, they wanted it so much that I started selling a 15-minute version of the film for $15. This had never been done before. They need to make a documentary on me. It had never been done before. And everybody said, I have filmmaker friends, and, family was like, you ain't even finished the film and you selling it, and who you think gonna pay $15 for 15 minutes? And I was like, I don't know, but they keep asking me for it. So I might as well sell it because I'm trying to get to these cities and I need to make some money. When I tell you I started selling it after I would screen the film, they were acting like I was selling crack. They were just grabbing it, coming as I got receipts. They were mobbing me.
And then from there, you knew that you could take on The Love of Diggs.
No, because The Love of Diggs came almost 11 years after that. Like, I wasn't thinking about, that's what I'm saying. The Love of Diggs, God is blessing me, because that was not my intention to do a documentary and to be here and then to be in the Cannes Film Festival. Like, pinch me, somebody smack me, wake me up. That was not my intention.
So how did you decide that you were going to enter this documentary in the Cannes Film Festival?
Well, honey, let me tell you this, because see, this when God is blessing you. Oh, Jesus, it's like he bless you so well that you gotta give him his props, because
I'm sitting over here right now saying that inside. Go ahead, sis.
There you go. It's like this. The film was selected. The film was purely selected. I got a call that said, would you like to submit your film, because I'm selecting it. Do you want to put it in there? And I'm like, are you kidding? I'm thinking, okay, that's not really, how you like, I don't know. Like, let me tell you something. The way that this happens so organically is God. Truly God. And that's why when I sit here now and I'm doing all kind of press, and we're doing European press, and I'm just like, I have my head down working 18-hour days trying to get the film finished so I can give this man his flowers. That was my only goal. So this is the lesson, though, because I was obedient.
There you go.
And I wasn't obedient because, I'm so smart. I was obedient because I remember the last time he told me to do something and I didn't do it. So that's why I was like, I got it, God, I got it. And I put my head down and I worked through it for 7 months. I worked like a slave, playing every position. And here's the thing too, for all you people out there, be ye ready. Be ready. I know how to do a lot of things, but I stay in my lane. I produce, I direct, I write, I stay in my lane.
I'm going through hell right now with my show and my videos, and I'm scrambling to get some interns, because I talked to somebody today and he's talking about, it's lowball, but it's still a lot of money. And I'm like, God, I can do this myself. And then the other side is saying, no, you need interns. So thank you so much for encouraging me just to get my skills up there so I can do what I need to do, because nobody's going to do it better than you.
And who knew? When I started doing it, I was already, I had already done the interviews, transcribed the interviews. The story was so in me. So it was just so easy for me to edit it versus trying to tell him what I'm trying to achieve and how I'm trying to achieve it. And not only that, now it was challenging in some places. I'm not gonna lie, it was very challenging, because trying to deal with this, I had to buy a new computer, not to mention all of the hard drives with terabytes and all of that technical stuff. The reason I really like to have an editor, because I don't want to be bothered with all that technical stuff. But I had to be bothered with it, and it was a headache. But I got through it. And I'm proud of my film that I edited. I am proud because I did that. Look, I did that.
I can't wait to see the movie. And I tell you, I could talk to you all day because you're just speaking to my spirit, you know.
Thank you.
And I think one of the most important things you said was listen to the voice of God.
Yeah.
When
he's talking to you at all times.
Listen. So what do we have to look forward to? We know we have the Cannes Film Festival, but what are we looking forward to from Miss Tanya Grady and Grady Girl Productions?
Well, you know, I'm not gonna get out here and I'm not gonna brag too much, but in the midst of bringing forth this new baby, which is this documentary For the Love of Diggs, I was able to squeeze out I think two web series and two docuseries.
Oh.
And the reason I had the time to do that is because sometimes when you're working on something and you are this sole creator and everything is coming from you, you got to leave it for a minute, you know, to get you. So when you work on something else, you come back and you're fresh, you see it different, you know, so it worked out so beautifully that the only way to explain it is that it was God, and God had this big present for me afterwards, because I had worked so hard to get the film done. And then I gave this big screening, you know, red carpet, so Diggs can, you know, do it in style and all his friends could be there. And that was great and wonderful, but God was blessing me in the interim, and I didn't realize it until I went in like a couple of days before the screening to, you know, check the tape, make sure everything was good with the film. And there's and I'll give you the video so you'll have it. You know, the red curtains are closed and my film is up there, and my logo, Grady Girl Productions, is up there. And it was at that point that I was like, oh my God. And I got the video because you hear me saying, oh my God, like that is everything. But it was that moment when I saw, because I've been working so hard, that I'm realizing like, oh my God, I got a film. Like I did a whole film. And I didn't really put the two and two together because I was so working so hard to just give this man his flowers. Mm-hmm. That's how I had it in my head. Like I'm doing this for him. Wasn't realizing I'm doing it for me. So now I got a whole documentary and I see my name up there and I'm like, oh my God, God is blessing me. God is wonderful. He is everything. So y'all get into it. Okay.
See, I was going to ask you for closing remarks. You just gave it to you just gave it to us. I thank you so much, Tanya Grady from Grady Girl Productions, for being with me on Determined Women of Destiny. And please, will you promise me to come back?
I will. And they can check out my website, which is simply www.gradygirl.com.
All right, and go see exactly what Tanya has done and enjoy her stuff, you know. Once again, I thank you. And for everybody who has, you know, watched this or listened to this, and you're in filmmaking, directing, anything you're doing, the one thing she said, the most important thing was listen to the voice of God, and yes, He will direct your footsteps.
Yes, He will. Yes, He will.
So everybody, I want you to keep doing what you're doing until what you're doing gets done. This has been Yvonne, the Motivated Man. You've been checking out Determined Women of Destiny with Tanya Grady. And until next time we meet, good people, peace and blessings. Peace and blessings.